Wednesday night, back in the saddle, ready to grind. MattyDaddy, Brad Bourbondude, Brad Bourbondude. What's up, buddy? Love that mic.
Dude, every time that we kick this show off and I listen to our intro music, I'm just back here jamming out like a motherfucker. So I got to shout out to my brother-in-law who helped us put together what he calls that stank. And that stank has me drinking some 1792 12-year tonight. I got my baseball in hand, ready to give some advice. Hopefully it's as good as it has been in the previous few weeks. And dude, I'm ready to do what we do every Wednesday.
Dominate. Nation of Domination. Shout out. Dude, what's been up today, man? I've been working with my pops. Mood's been a little crazy today. So dealing with that, I'm pumped to talk football, have a few beers with the boys in the back. What have you been doing today? Just working, taking care of the kids? Sitting at this damn computer all day long, man. It'll be nice tomorrow. I get to actually go into work for a change, get to walk around site. I got to take some pictures for some stuff. I'm excited. I get to get back in, see some guys. My man Z Grayson, right? Woo! Get to go have some lunch with Zach. Love you, man. Can't wait to do that. So yeah, it's back to the grind. Back to the grind. Damn dirty fine, dude. We got start sits today. Getting ready for week 6. This is kind of the crossroads, man. We just heard, Mystery Your Marriage last week. A lot of people are interested. Do I keep my lineup? Do I switch it up? Do I make trades? Before we get started with start sits, have you made any crazy trades the last couple days? Because I got 3 just today. Have you made any recently? Wait, we made one. Never mind. We did. That's right. We made one. I made a move. Really, in a team that I thought I was a year out from really contending, I ended up being 4-1. I'm like 4th in scoring. Got the second best record in the league, so I made the decision to move some picks and some players for some people. I targeted Antonio Gibson, was one guy that I've been looking for, so that worked out. Hope to ride him to a title, and even then, right, that title run this year that I'm trying to make, that Antonio Gibson is a good future play as well. So I'm excited about that. I've really, in a few rebuilds, really been trying to use some of these backup quarterbacks, some of these running backs who get starting gigs because of injury, right? Trying to move like a Taylor Heineke, trying to move a Jamal Williams and a Daryl Henderson, and some of these guys that are producing, Damian Williams, guys that are producing right now, but they're only producing because of the person in front of them is hurt. So really just looking to try to capitalize on some of that value to put me in a good position in the offseason in some of these rebuilds, right? Don't be asking for a lot. Anything like a late second or a third for some of these guys is what I'm looking to try to do. And then one guy that I'm trying to buy low again is Kenny Goliday, a guy that we finally saw start to click with Daniel Jones last week or 2 weeks ago. And then he ended up getting hurt. And now those owners are on that downswing again. So looking at some opportunities to maybe try to go get somebody like that who I think is going to have a really good second half of the season. And then even next year with Daniel Jones, guys like that are kind of what I'm looking at right now. It's crazy with Daniel Jones, too, because I didn't see this guy I thought he was going to flop this year. I just didn't, the Giants, they just haven't been a good organization. Yeah. Last year I was on the Giants. I was like, all right, this is going to be interesting. They can run the ball with Saquon or whatnot, and it fell flat. Then you just see Danny Dimes balling year round. So a lot of interest there. I don't know what we got. Hey, we saw Darnold ball a couple weeks. Exactly. He's got that offense around him that makes him look better than he is. So, dude, we got start sits. Let's get to it. Before we can, I want to prop up with Thrive Fantasy. Everybody's been gambling, over-unders, different kinds of things. Use our code FFaffair. We take care of you. Obviously, we got that going on. What you got for us? Yeah, look, we're talking Thrive, so we might as well throw a couple of these over-unders that I really like out, right? I've been looking, doing a little bit of digging, trying to figure out where the value is. And there's really 3 I'm going to mention that I think are pretty much smash plays. One is actually the not consensus pick. And that's Joe Mixon over 61.5 yards. Rushing yards, I'm smashing the over on that. It's about 130 points worth. So looking at that as an opportunity. The next one is Lamar Jackson, over 292 combined rushing and passing. You saw him light the world on fire last week
We've talked, if you've listened to the Fantasy Affair podcast, if you've listened to Rookie on the Rise, when we're talking about Rashad Bateman, I have a lot of belief around Lamar Jackson and his passing capabilities and how it looks like he's taken that step forward. So I'm smashing the over on that 292, and it's combined rushing and passing. It's almost a given. And then the third one is Najee Harris over 80.5 combined rushing and receiving yards. I think that's an absolute smash play against the Seattle Seahawks. So those are three that I would really take a hard look at and Thrive when you're doing one of these Sunday fun days on there.
Did you see that Lamar Jackson is ranked third in total offense?
Yeah.
He's got more yards by himself than like 29 other teams. Like, What the fuck?
Yeah, he's insane, dude. He's nuts.
Who would have thought? Because he's always been like the most doubted quarterback. Because they're like, oh, his legs will fall off, and now he's doing it as a passer. You see Hollywood. I wasn't the biggest fan after his rookie year. I was like, oh, this guy's a one-trick pony. He's too small, and now he's wide receiver 6 on the year. Like, come on.
I love it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's why you can't be stuck in your takes, man. You gotta go with the flow, right? When you see guys changing, you gotta think these guys are with their coaches all day, every day, 24/7. That's their job, right? We work our jobs Monday through Friday. These cats are working their jobs all the time, whether it's in the gym, whether it's trying to perfect route running, whether it's working on speed or quickness or agility or whatever. That's what these guys do. So you expect to see them grow over time. That's why you can't be stuck. You just have to pay attention, watch. And I'd say you'd see some of these things coming for sure.
Absolutely, dude. So let's get to it. Let's get down to the business. We got a bunch going. We got start sits. We have our Thursday night game, bunch of points on the board, a lot of fantasy intel right there. So, guys, if y'all have any questions, any comments, start sit questions, trade questions, now's the time to do it. It's going to be me and Brad one-on-one. Let's start with our starts, man. Quarterback starts. You have an intriguing one here because we have pretty much everybody's been off on this guy, and it feels like it's a Steelers week. So kind of fill us in on why you went Big Ben as your quarterback start.
I did. Look, the guy has struggled. I can't say anything other than that. He's a QB3. He's QB 27 on the year right now. Now, everybody says he's washed. He's not playing that well. And I would agree up until the last couple weeks. I think the last couple weeks, while fantasy production has not been there, when you see him on the field, he's not playing terrible football. He really isn't when you're watching. So now you start to look at, okay, well, why has he not performed? What's been the issue? And you got to look at their schedule. Their first 5 weeks, as far as a passing defense is concerned, they've played the Buffalo Bills, the number 1 overall ranked pass defense in the NFL. The Denver Broncos, the number 2 overall ranked pass defense in the NFL. The Las Vegas Raiders, the number 9 overall ranked pass defense. The Cincinnati Bengals, number 12. 4 of their 5 games have been against top 12 passing defenses. And then the Green Bay Packers was their other game. That's 16. That's still top half of the league, right? So I see a situation where Big Ben is putting up 15 or so points a game against the top echelon pass defenses in the league. And now they get a juicy ass matchup with what I guess I have to call a defense in the Seattle Seahawks, but they really don't know how to play defense. I mean, it is bad. The play calling is not working. The players aren't playing very well right now. They're just not meshing, and there's holes everywhere on that defense. So I think this is an opportunity where he's not going to be a top 5 quarterback. That's not what I'm saying. But bye weeks are kicking in. There's a world where this guy sneaks into the top 15, the top 12 type quarterback because of those bye weeks that you're looking at. I'm not starting him over any of the 2 guys you got on the screen right now. I'm not starting him over Jalen Hurts. I'm not starting him over Tom Brady or Matthew Stafford, some of these guys, right? But if you're looking for a streamer this week, I think he's a smash start, and he's not going to kill you, but he's also not going to win you the week. The over-under for this game is very interesting. It's only at 42.5. I think I'm smashing the over on that. That seems a little low to me. Even with what we remember the Pittsburgh Steelers defense being, it really hasn't been that great this year from a passing perspective, which is obviously what Seattle's going to want to come out and do, depending on how Chris Carson's health is and whatnot, right? They're going to try to play DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett against that pretty poor secondary for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think it's a good candidate for the over at 42.5, which again is going to lead to Big Ben throwing the ball a little bit more. So on and so forth. I don't think Juju hurts that situation. If anything, I think Juju is going to be helping Najee Harris and his pass catching close to the line of scrimmage. But yeah, I think Big Ben is a good plug for your quarterback position in Week 6.
Yeah, I love you said it. Seattle defense, it's irrelevant at this point. I think this is a blow up game for all Steelers. He's still having to pass around 40 times a week. I mean, it's not like the passing game's gone away. It's
averaging 39 attempts a game. He's averaging right now.
So there's options there to pass. They're going to try to stop the run. So they're going to have to figure out ways to score points. I'm all for it. Stream-wise, give me Big Ben this week. I went with the rookie, the young blood, the flavor of the week, who's had some struggles first 3 weeks. These last 2 weeks, he's bounced back. Luckily, to having a rushing floor, put up around 30 yards, been saved with some rushing touchdowns. We just saw him score around 22, 23 points against Tennessee. I'm going to London, bloke. I am going with Trevor Lawrence, the rookie, the young blood. Everybody's just fell off and said, oh, he's inaccurate. I don't want this guy. We're talking streamers, guys. Tom Brady, Hurts, that's a no-brainer. But you want those guys with good matchups that you want to set yourself up for success. So what I'm asking for is a safe floor. I think this guy can get 20 points against Miami's pass defense. I don't think Miami is that good of a defense, at least when it comes to passing. So this is a matchup I'm going for because now that we've seen him have to scramble a little bit, I think he's getting more comfortable. You're going to see that upside start flashing more. So Lawrence is my start this week. This is a guy, if you've got Kirk Cousins maybe or a Carr, who've kind of tipped the scales. Just 3 weeks ago, we were saying these guys were must starts. But we've seen some struggles, maybe a Baker. I'd take a chance on Lawrence here in this matchup. What are your thoughts on Lawrence, man? Because obviously it's hard to trust him in redraft because you're trying to win now. But do you think maybe in Dynasty we hyped this guy up a little too much and then he got put with the Urban Cowboy and Urban Meyer and it kind of just hasn't gelled right?
No, I think anybody who thought he was just going to come out and be the next coming of, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or whatever in his rookie season is just not, it's just not realistic. That's not what happens. It's more, that's the outlier, right? The Justin Herbert rookie seasons are not the norm for these guys when they're coming out. Now, I did think they were going to start a little bit better. I gave Urban Meyer a little bit more credit around how he was going to scheme to make sure that Trevor Lawrence was able to kind of transition very easily from a college game into kind of a hybrid college NFL game and kind of ease him into that NFL style. And it just didn't really work. Now, he came out in week 1 and had a pretty solid week 1. He just turned the ball over, right? He threw for over 300 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, but he threw 3 picks, right? Those rookie mistakes. But then he struggled mightily with just barely over 100 yards in week 2, just barely over 200 yards in week 3, threw 2 picks in both of those games, struggled quite a bit. But now he started to settle back in again, right? Last week against Tennessee, it was, in my opinion, it was his best game to date, right? Now he still had a turnover, but I still think that with his rushing floor that he's going to give you with those, 8 or so attempts a game that he's given you, there's a potential for that red zone touchdown rush that he can give you. And he's getting a little bit more familiar with his pass catchers. I think DJ Chark hurts a little bit. I'm a little more concerned about the passing game in this than you are, I think. I like Byron Jones a lot. I like Xavier Howard a lot. And I think losing DJ Chark gives them the opportunity to where they can match Byron Jones up with Marvin Jones or Xavier Howard with Marvin Jones and the other with Laviska Shenault. And that's going to make those outside matchups very difficult. So now you're looking at, okay, well, is Jamal Agnew going to be a thing? Is he a guy that can be successful? Is tight end Dan Arnold, is he going to be able to take advantage of those linebackers? So I think it's going to have to come from outside of those, the 1A, 1B, I'll say, really kind of wide receivers that we saw last week between Shenault and Jones. So I'm a little bit more hesitant, but I think you're still going to get a solid floor out of him for sure.
Yeah. Well, here's our first question of the night. Fugitive Jonah, make money, not friends. He's here to win, guys. So let's just say this trade, let's give it a redraft and a dynasty perspective. We're talking Devonte Smith. I think he's obviously first round draft capital, Heisman, ranked right around like 30-something on the season. Tony's been crazy, more or less off of 2 games. And Madison, who's played pretty good for Cook, for Diggs, who Diggs, I believe, is right there around like 26 on the year, somewhere around there, but he was wide receiver 3 last year. Let's go from a redraft perspective. You've got Smith, Tony, who you can probably flex or start right now, and Madison. Are you trading those away for Diggs?
Yeah, I would. I think Madison is a rental, right? And most likely it looks like Cook is going to play this week. So really Madison's useless unless Dalvin Cook goes down or misses a game here with an ankle injury or whatever. So he's really just a plug in and a hope that if Cook gets hurt, you've got something. I don't know that Kadarius Toney is going to continue to be a thing. That's my concern there. Is Sterling Shepard looks like he's probably going to play this week. There's a chance that Darius Slayton is going to play. And then when Kenny Goliday comes back, what are they going to do with Kadarius Toney? Are they going to see the explosiveness that we all saw last week and say, hey, we're going to create some touches for this guy? Or is he going to go back to 4th on the depth chart for the time being? I think Devonta Smith is a plug and play. You leave him in your lineup regardless, but none of these guys are anywhere close to the caliber of Diggs. I don't know if I'd be willing to pay that much for Diggs though right now, right? I think that's like a top value for him right now in a redraft league, and I'd be looking to try to buy him a little bit lower than that. So if you could hold on to, say, a Madison and move Smith and Toney for Diggs, that might be something a little more up my alley.
How hot is Buffalo's offense right now? Zach Moss, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox, everybody on their starting offense you can start right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, ever since Emmanuel Sanders has had 2 killer weeks, he's completely crushed Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley's been non-existent the last 2 weeks. Diggs is getting his, 7 targets a game or whatever. He's had an outlier there, but he's not. He's not killing you in any given week, but he's definitely not giving you the wide receiver 3 numbers that we saw last year from him.
Just crazy. Dynasty, is this close at all for you? I'd say we got Smith right around probably a first plus, Toney right there at like a second. You might be able to get a future first. And then Madison's just a handcuff. If you, let's just say this is a dynasty perspective. Are you making this deal?
Yeah, if I'm in a rebuild, this is definitely something I'm looking to try to do, right? You got Stephon Diggs, 27, going on 28, but he's tied to a high-powered offense, right? He's tied to Josh Allen for most likely the remainder of his career outside of maybe that age 32 season or something like that. But Devonta Smith and Kadarius Toney, you've got rookies, you've got draft capital, and Alexander Madison in Dynasty, these handcuffs are huge. They are huge. They are guys that you can capitalize at the right time if you move them later on. So you could really turn this into something better than that if you time it right when you're getting rid of Madison. So if I'm rebuilding, this is definitely a move I'm looking to make. I may look to try to do a pick instead of Kadarius Toney and add to my picks for future years. But this is definitely something I'd be looking at trying to do for sure.
A lot of intrigue here. You got to be excited about these rookies. And I don't think Diggs has fell off. If you're a competing team, I'd probably hold strong. But, rebuild. This is what people are thinking about week 5. All right, guys, let's go to QB sits. Here's another guy that's kind of turned it off, turned it on. He's like the clapper, on, off. We don't know what we're getting from like the QB 7 last year. Ryan Tannehill, man. This is your sit. Say it ain't so.
Yeah, I am really worried about Ryan Tannehill. It does not look like that offense is clicking with the tight end coach that is now the offensive coordinator. You would have thought there'd be some consistency with him being under Arthur Smith and still being in that offense the last couple years with Ryan Tannehill and then moving into this season. But they just look discombobulated. They're not clicking on all cylinders unless your name is Derrick Henry. That's pretty much the only thing I want out of this offense right now. And like you said, he's the QB 21 right now. He hasn't done really much of anything for you. Even his big game against Indianapolis was really touchdown dependent. He didn't have a lot of yards or attempts, so it was very dependent on that. And look, they're going against the Buffalo Bills, who we said is the number 1 overall pass defense in the NFL. They've had 2 shutouts this season. Is that accurate already?
Sounds like it.
I believe they've got 2. I'm going to look real quick while I'm talking out my ass here. They have 2 shutouts, one in week 2 and one in week 4. So I mean, that's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. So I'm just holding. I am waiting until I get a better matchup for him. He hasn't proven that he can do it in those weaker matchups, so he hasn't given me the confidence to be able to roll him out against Buffalo. I would literally look for anyone else to start over him. Trevor Lawrence is a perfect example, right? That's a guy I normally would not think about starting over a Ryan Tannehill, but this week I'm doing that. If I've got a Taylor Heineke against the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm looking to start Taylor Heineke in this situation. If I can find any option other than Ryan Tannehill, I'm probably rolling him out right now.
All right. I mean, dude, we've seen Tennessee hasn't been what we expected them to be 5 weeks into the season, going on 6. So you have to be worried if you're a Ryan Tannehill owner. Definitely. I'm going Derek Carr. Just 3 weeks ago, I was yelling out the car.
It hurts my heart.
QB1, bow. I thought him and Cousins were, magic. And now he's got to go to Mile High. His coach just got fired for whatever he did on some email. It's a shitty situation in Oakland. The O-line's not protecting him. He's being fed to the wolves. They kind of do this to Carr. I feel like every year he just kind of has all this. You see 3 weeks in, he's nonstop lighting it up. And then the last 2 weeks, 24 points in 2 weeks. I think he had 7 1 week. Oh, this is not the matchup I want to play, constantly being pressured. This is not the spot. Not at Denver, not at Mile High, not when your coach is fired, when you can kind of lean on that run game to kind of get you through. I just don't think – to me, I don't see a lot of upside in Oakland with the Gruden firing. I think that was huge. I think that's going to be a momentum swing. To me, I felt like he was the coach to have. So what are your thoughts? We've seen Carr. He's kind of a tricky play here. But Oakland going forward, man, because that's a lot of questions. You've got Jacobs, you've got Carr, you've got Ruggs, you've got these receivers, and you've got Waller. So moving forward, are you a little worried about Las Vegas?
I don't think so. I think this is a situation where a team is quite possibly going to respond, right? I think what you saw last week was a result of all the chatter that was already happening, right? Because if you think about it, all that news started to roll out on Friday. So they went into that game with all of that stuff over their head already, right? And especially when you've got some players who could be directly affected with some of his comments in those situations, I think that is really the ultimate factor of what caused that situation last week, because there was no excuse for their performance. I think they respond, but as I mentioned earlier, Denver is the number 2 rated pass defense in the league. They've got Patrick Surtain. They brought in Kyle Fuller. They've got Justin Simmons. Like, they've got some really solid secondary pieces, not to mention the fact that they've got 2 monster pass rushers. So now Derek Carr has overcome that for all except for last week, right? He pretty much was able to respond with the poor offensive line play and some decent defensive lines that they were going up against. So I think he's probably startable. You're not going to like what you're going to get out of him, but I don't think he's going to give you a sub 10-point week. I think they respond okay, but if I've got an option, I'm definitely not looking to start him if I can get away from it.
When you said like a Taylor Heineke, who's pretty much running and gunning because he's going to have to go against Kansas City. We've seen other guys do it. Like I mentioned, Big Ben, things like that. People that have the matchup that you can kind of exploit maybe a weak defense, whoever's playing Detroit, whatnot. Yeah, so I'm just a little worried. That's all I'd say. Yeah, if I can get, man, it just doesn't sound good getting 15 points.
Yeah.
Like that's not what I'm looking for. Like I'm looking for that's a streamer.
It is. It is. Yep.
Cool. So here's another one, man. RB sits. We'll go sits first because this is like the biggest waiver wire move of the week. We've seen kind of Clyde Edwards-Helaire underperform. We've seen Daryl Williams kind of have this pass down work, be a guy that Kansas City kind of trusts. So let's talk Daryl Williams because he is your sit at the RB spot. Kind of fill us in how you got there.
Yeah, look, I don't think I'm a little biased. I don't trust Kansas City running backs like a lot of other people do, right? I didn't trust CEH because of the utilization. Patrick Mahomes does not look to check down to the running back. It just doesn't happen. That's not where he looks to go. He looks to go deep to Tyreek, and if Tyreek's not there, he goes to the security blanket that for most quarterbacks is the running back, but for him it's Travis Kelce, right? He just doesn't do that. So when CEH went out last week, you look at the snap share, and there was like a 31% Jerick McKinnon and 43% Daryl Williams. So when I think about this is like a 60-40 split, and in order for Daryl Williams to be relevant, he's going to need pass catching work or he's going to need a touchdown, right? Yeah, maybe he gets 12 to 15 carries, but that just isn't their game. That's not what they do. So I need him to get that pass catching work. And I believe that Jerick McKinnon is the better pass catcher out of the two of them. Andy Reid, I think, is going to utilize Jerick McKinnon in that those pass catching downs late in the first half and the second half when they're looking to try to move down the field if they're down. I just don't think it's going to be a Daryl Henderson owned backfield. I just don't see that. They're also playing the Washington football team, who has allowed 11 points to Austin Eckler in week 1, 9 points to Saquon Barkley in week 2, 18 points to Zach Moss in week 3, 10 points to Mike Davis in Atlanta in week 4, and 29 points to Alvin Kamara last week. So there's 2 performances in there that you hear about, right? Atlanta in week 4, everybody says Cordero Patterson. Cordero Patterson was the RB1 that week, but it was on the back of all the wide receiver work that he was getting, not the running back work. And then this past week, Alvin Kamara with his big finish was because of the 5 catches for 50 yards and the touchdown that he had. Again, the receiving work. So he needs receiving work, I think, to be relevant against the Washington defense. And I just don't see him getting enough of that. So I'm not trusting him in my lineup at all this week.
What about Jerick McKinnon? Thoughts on him?
I have no interest in either one of these guys. I just don't think the volume's going to be there for either one of them. Gotcha. And you're betting on a touchdown. Yeah.
I mean, I can respect it. I think people are going to see those big weeks. Washington's given up to Kamara and different guys, and they're going to think it's Kansas City. Oh, this is a matchup. You know, they're going to lean on him maybe a little more. They might be up, whatnot. We'll see. I think that's I wouldn't say it's bold, but a lot of people watching this are probably like, oh, I just picked up Daryl Williams. I picked up Devontae Booker. I got to start these guys.
Sell him. Move him into and get anything that you can. Anything that you can.
All right. Would you take a third for Daryl Williams?
Absolutely.
All right.
And I'm fairly certain I did. I took an early third for Daryl Williams.
All right.
In a dynasty league. Today, actually. It was either today or yesterday.
See, you're making trades.
Yeah.
I want to talk Damian Harris for a second because this is a guy we've seen him have some flashes, some good games. We've seen him fumble. We've seen him do some dumb, boneheaded things. And we know the Patriot way where not everybody's going to have a Jonah Gray game. But we've seen some different things that just haven't been good. And then you add a rib injury, negative game script. I'm not liking Damian Harris this week. I've seen Brandon Bolden play. I've seen Stevenson get some work last week. This is just not where I'm going. Damian Williams, Damian Harris, he's one of those guys that I want to root for. But is he more than a Peyton Barber? Is he going to ever, lock up that workload in New England? I mean, you've got Dallas. You're going to have to play from behind this, and you're battling injuries. I think he fumbled on the 1 yard line, 2 yard line last week.
Yep.
To me, we've seen what Stevenson did in the offseason, or not the offseason, the preseason. To me, I feel like the workload's going to be kind of taken away from him. If you're battling injuries, you're playing from behind. To me, this is not the week to start Damian Harris against Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it 2 weeks already this year, right? You saw him just be completely removed from the game plan where he had less than 10 overall touches. He had like 6 carries and 8 carries with 1 target. He's not the pass catching back. And if they're down, which they're going to be, I think Mac Jones has another terrible game. Even though they came out with a win last week, he looked like crap. I think Trayvon Diggs is going to make him look really bad this week because that dude is a bad motherfucker. That dude is nasty, but I don't want to get on the defensive side of the ball and get sidetracked. So there's no way that Damian Harris is touching my lineup at all this week. I would literally start anybody. I might start Daryl Williams over him. Like, I don't want anything to do with Damian Harris this week.
I mean, we saw 4 carries, 3 weeks ago? Then we saw 6. Then he's starting to get like 11 last week. Then he gets hurt. Then he fumbles. It's just ugly. I don't want any of these New England backs in my starting lineup unless I'm desperate. But to me, it's just – and then I got another question because you just mentioned Mac Jones. We've seen the rookie hype on these quarterbacks. And now we see Lance kind of battling an injury. He's shown flashes. We've seen nothing from Fields. We've seen nothing. I mean, we've seen a little bit from Mac, but it feels like his upside's limited. And then Wilson's just shit the bed the last couple weeks after having maybe a good game.
Yep.
So kind of rapid fire. What's your thoughts on this quarterback class, man?
It's like I mentioned earlier. It's like I mentioned earlier. I think everybody saw those performances last year from Joe Burrow before he got hurt, from Justin Herbert all season, and they said, oh my God, we got to go get these guys. And they're riding that high from the season last year. I was not a Trey Lance guy coming out. I don't like what I'm seeing on the field from him, period. Nothing about his game was good to me last week. I think when I charted everything, there were like 3 throws that I thought were good throws and everything else was trash. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not going to improve and Kyle Shanahan's going to coach him up and all those kinds of things. But this year is not the year for any of these guys. These are not guys you want to rely on this year. And for one, if you were going into a redraft season relying on a rookie quarterback, you fucked up anyway. Like, that should never be your strategy, is to roll out a rookie quarterback in a redraft league. That if anything, you pick them up off the waiver wire halfway through the season when they actually start to play somewhat decent at the end of the season. So, but yeah, I'm not leaning on any of these guys right now. I still think that Trevor Lawrence is clear number 1. To me, Justin Fields is 2, Zach Wilson's 3, Mac Jones is 4, and I'm probably going to move Trey Lance down to 5 right now. Yeah. I was not high on him coming out, so that shouldn't surprise too many people. So
looks like our people are ridiculous.
Our guys back. Yeah, that's all right. We'll just block you again there, boss man. So enjoy your night.
Just too much. Yeah. I gotta. No. I'll block you. You're good.
Yeah. Thanks.
Let's talk about somebody you can start, who has been Mr. Consistent when he's healthy. Daryl Henderson, man, your running back start. Fill us in. If you're not on the Daryl Henderson hype train yet, I suggest you get on it.
Yeah, look, this guy's RB15 on the season right now. He's had a not a tough schedule, but a decent schedule. And look, they're playing the New York Giants this week. The New York Giants have allowed the 3rd most rushing yards at the running back position, the 5th most receiving yards at the running back position, and the 5th most fantasy points to the running back position. I expect the Giants to be down early, and I expect Daryl Henderson and Sony Michel to be touching the ball a ton in this game. I expect him to get over 20 touches, which he's done I believe twice in his career. And if he's getting 15 or more, he's averaging about 17 fantasy points per game. And that's the kind of guy I'm looking at. I think he gives you huge RB1 upside this week. So I'm excited for him.
Absolutely, dude. Henderson should be a lock every week at this point, the way he's playing. I've always been a Henderson truther. I feel like I get worked every year from Brad. He's, hey, just send me a first for Henderson. And I make the mistake. Then he gets hurt, whatnot. Comes full circle. Now Brad's got Henderson, and he's balling. Just story of my life. Dude, I'm going to talk about another guy Brad's big on. I was informed that Melvin Gordon might not play, kind of battling injury or sickness, whatnot. But these Broncos RBs against Vegas just feel like a smash spot. We saw last week what Chicago did with Herbert. Glad to see him play, by the way. And Damian Williams. Both these guys had plenty of carries and had good games. 18 for 75, 16 for 64. Now you get a white-hot Javonte Williams who's kind of coming into his own. You see, he's not necessarily getting the share.
Oh, my God, he looks so good.
Yeah, what was it, like 8 for 70 or 60? It's crazy. And he's getting pass work. It's not like he's one-dimensional. And these guys are using him. This is a spot, dude. Raiders have allowed 7 rushing touchdowns, 8 most yards allowed. This is a smash spot. Just run the ball. That's all they have to do. Keep moving the clock, moving the ball, dude. It's a 50, 45, 55 split. To me, this is RB2 numbers all day. And if Gordon doesn't play, I think Javonte could finish top 10 easy.
Yeah. I don't want to take the whole pod to talk about my love for Javonte Williams, because if you don't know that I have it, then you just haven't paid attention, because anytime I get the chance to talk about this cat, I've talked about him. And it's coming to fruition, I think, at this point. The guy looks absolutely baller on the field right now. He cannot be taken down. This guy does not get tackled by one person. It takes the whole team to tackle this man, and he looks really good. His vision looks good. He can catch passes. So especially if Melvin Gordon is out, dude, you play this guy with confidence. I don't know how, but I'm going to figure out how to get this man in my lineup in a league where I have DeAndre Swift, Antonio Gibson, and Daryl Henderson. Luckily for me, I've got Deebo Samuel on bye, and that third flex I'm trying to, or that last flex position I'm trying to figure out. But if Melvin Gordon's out, this dude's getting plugged in regardless, and I'll figure out the wide receivers otherwise, because this dude is too good to keep out of your lineup, especially if he gets 100% of the work.
I made speaking of Deebo, I made a trade today, not reading the trade right.
Oh, no.
This is why you shouldn't be on your phone while you're on a lawnmower. This is what they call, they're going to outlaw phones on while you're driving, while you're cutting grass. Doesn't matter, because people do dumb shit like I did today. I wouldn't say it's dumb, but I traded CMC away thinking I was getting CMC. Thanks to 30 fucking leagues I'm in. I trade away CMC for Deebo Samuel. I'll take him. Wide receiver 6 on the year. AJ Dillon, and a first from a guy who's 0-4. So not terrible, but not what I was expecting. I thought I was getting CMC. And then about 6 hours later, I'm like, fuck, I just gave up CMC. Didn't bitch, just did the trade, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's what you get for
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. I did the same thing thinking I was getting DJ Moore, but I ended up with David Moore, which is even especially difficult because they both at the time played for fucking Carolina, right?
So bad.
I felt like such a D-bag because I had just come into that league, right? So I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm fucking going to make a splash. I'm going to get the trade market going. And then I get the trade, and I was like, fuck yeah, you accepted it. And I'm looking, I'm like, David, what the? I'm like, you got to be shitting me. So I know what you're talking about.
Ooh, here's a good one. I kind of like this one. MJ Keno, spicy idea, start Javonte and sit AJ Brown. Thoughts on this one, Brad?
If Melvin Gordon does not play, I could see myself doing that. If Melvin Gordon plays, there's no way I'm sitting AJ Brown for a guy who's splitting 50-50.
Ooh, that's tough, man.
Yep. So pay attention to the injury report. If Melvin Gordon doesn't play, then I think you could start Javonte with confidence. But otherwise, I'm playing A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown's bound to pop off more. I mean, it's going to happen. It's been slow, but he's been hurt. I don't think Julio's questionable, I believe. So just like you said, injury report, I'd go A.J. Brown, but it's questionable. MJ Keno, boom! Thank you, buddy. Dude, all these questions we get on YouTube, things like that, please subscribe to the channel. Anything and everything is appreciated. We're getting views on videos, things like that, but we need subscribers too. That obviously helps big time. Thank you for your questions, your comments, everything and anything. Time for some receiver talk. I'm going to go first because I'm pretty hyped. I've always been a Chase Claypool fan. If you haven't learned by now, you should know I am on this bandwagon forever. If you've seen our YouTube quick hitters, I made a video about why you should go out and get Claypool this week, because this week is the week these guys get to play Seattle like Big Ben. No juju. We've seen these guys get peppered. Deontay, Chase, start your Steelers wide receivers with confidence. Both these guys are going to score buku amount of points. Seattle's bottom 5 against receivers. You know, everybody, 7 receivers have scored over 16 points. Like I said, no juju. We saw Chase 130 yards and a touchdown. Usually you got Deontay getting your targets, but these guys are matchup proof. We've seen 40-yard bombs for Deontay. We've seen targets galore from Chase. These guys are interchangeable. Wide receiver 2s every week with wide receiver 1 upside. Like Big Ben, I could see this be the week that both these guys finish in the top 12. That's how confident I am in these receivers. So, Brad, am I too high on – we're high on Pittsburgh at this point, right? The targets are going to be there. There's no juju. You've got your short underneath target. We've seen Deontay do the deep ball now. We've seen Claypool get the targets. So it's kind of like both these guys are just that perfect simmer. They're ready to explode.
Yeah, I think both of these guys are going to be killing it, right? I think Chase Claypool is still that deep threat, and it seems to be that this guy's just uncoverable right now. I mean, you saw it in a couple games last year, and I was very skeptical of it. But I am a pretty big proponent of Matt Harmon's reception perception, and I use that to really kind of help when I'm watching film, you know, when I'm going back and watching the games in the offseason, using that to kind of help me understand, you know, okay, well, what did he do? Was he creating separation? Was he man? Was he up against man? Was he up against press? All that kind of stuff, right? And Chase Claypool is solid in everything. This dude can do it all. And you talked about it. They are kind of interchangeable. When I think Deontay Johnson, when you thought about it last year, this guy, his average depth of target was very low. He wasn't seeing those targets down the field, which is why he was like, you know, wide receiver 23 or 24, whatever he was, because he's getting 10 targets for 50 yards, right? And that's just not going to do it. Well, now he's seeing those 40-yard touchdown passes that you saw last week. You know, so he's getting those down the field targets as well. It makes it very difficult for teams to game plan because now it's not Deontay as the underneath and Chase Claypool is the deep. They can be interchanged and back and forth and used in different ways. And I think with Juju out, that's just going to help that situation even more. That's going to give Najee Harris a little bit of a bump in the receiving game. So I think all three of these guys are really solid plays, particularly this week, like we talked about that Seattle defense. So I'm not going to disagree at all. If I had both these guys on my team, I'd be starting both of them. Like I have no worry or no quarrel with that at all.
All right, real quick while we're on Steelers receivers, rapid fire, Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, is he a sell? Is he a buy? Is he a bust?
Oh, no, I was just giving the drama, the quiet, the kind of chirp noise. No, look, this guy's not there next year. I think that's a given at this point. You know, he basically came back on that 1-year deal. I'm not really sure why. I think there was a lot of that speculation around the cap and how the cap was going to go up, so more people would be willing to pay a wide receiver next season and this and that. So maybe he's looking at it from that. I think he loves Pittsburgh, right? I believe he wants to stay in Pittsburgh. I just don't think they're going to want him at this point. He's not really proven that he can do it since Antonio Brown's left town. He can't stay healthy now at this point. It looks like he's out. I'm pretty sure he is out the remainder of the season. I don't think that's been completely verified. Everything I've seen is it looks like it's the entirety of the year. But so I think with all those things, he's out of town. And at that point, you look at some really good opportunities where he could go that I think could be beneficial to him. So to me, from a dynasty perspective, I may be looking to buy Juju Smith-Schuster kind of like super low right now, right? He's missing the year. He's had 2 down years in a row. I may utilize that, and then that free agency buzz in the offseason after he gets signed, use that to sell him.
Yeah, we had week 4, 3 points, week 3, 6 points, 2 solid games, but only 24 years old. Just kind of intriguing from a receiver standpoint. What if he lands in Kansas City like he didn't do last year?
That was the name that was in my head. Like, imagine him there with that secondary option for Tyreek and Travis Kelce.
Well, dude, let's talk about your receiver. We're about to get into the Thursday night game. Devonte Smith, a guy we've seen just ball the last couple games. Devonte Smith, man, this was your number 1 receiver of the rookie class, and this is your guy. Now he goes up against Tampa Bay, which should be in a shootout, big Vegas total. I think of like 53, 55 points, something like that. This is a interesting spot in Philly. Tell us why Devonte Smith's your guy.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a guy right now. He's a wide receiver 3. He's wide receiver 36. He's had 2 solid games in a row. You're starting to see it click, right? You're starting to see him get more targets. You're starting to see him down the field. Weeks 1, 2, and 3, they were short, close to the line of scrimmage type of plays, and now they're a little bit further downfield, letting him work the field and create that separation with his route running because he's super good at it. So I think that you're going to see more of that moving forward. He's already got, it's 14 yards average depth of target, which is solid, very solid. But he's got a really low yards after the catch, which is kind of surprising, right? So he's at about 3.5 yards after the catch, which in college he was kind of he was not a yak specialist, right? He was not like a Laviska Shenault, Deebo Samuel kind of guy in college. But he was getting significant yards after the catch. I think he averaged just around 9 yards after the catch. So I would like to see that kind of come to the forefront a little bit more. And I think part of the issue is Jalen Hurts' accuracy. He's not hitting him in stride where he can create those yards. And I don't know that that's going to be fixed this year, to be completely honest with you, but you've seen the connection start to grow. And I think when you look at Tampa Bay, the matchup, it's juicy, right? Not only were Tampa Bay's corners already not very good, they're now banged up, and they're looking at guys that are even worse than the ones that were not very good when they came into the season, because they've got a lot of guys that are hurt. They're bringing in Richard Sherman off the street, who, was excellent in his prime, but from what I've seen the last couple games, he did not look good at all. He looked very handsy, was getting some PI calls that he probably shouldn't have been called for, at least in one of them. But, so I think he's still kind of getting himself back into game shape and familiar with kind of the defensive scheme and those kinds of things. So I think they take absolute advantage of that situation and use Devonta Smith in different ways. He had 3 red zone targets last week, none of which came in for a touchdown. So now I look to see a little bit of touchdown regression in the positive direction as well. So I think you could easily see Devonta Smith with greater than 100 yards and a touchdown this week and put him in that, that wide receiver 1 discussion after the week's over.
Absolutely. 7 for 122 versus Kansas City, then 7 for 77 against a stout Carolina defense. This is a good spot for him, especially when you're having to play from behind. Tampa's no joke, but like you said, this could be a spot to take advantage of what's going on around him. It's sit time. Receiver sits. Why do I always have OBJ as a start or sit? This is like the most. Am I ready to give up on this guy yet? Like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Just annoying.
I agree. I've got a Brown shirt on.
What is up with Baker? Like, are these guys just so damn good with running the ball? I mean, we saw
they're number
week,
one in every
points.
major category in rushing. Number one, not number one and number two in some. They're number one in all of them. It's working. Yeah. It's just working right now.
I think this was before Sunday's game or right after, but Kareem, go out and get Kareem Hunt. If you play fantasy football, dynasty, redraft, I don't care. It's like the RB8, RB6 on the year, and this guy does nothing but produce every single year. Yet he's valued like a backup almost, or like a low end too. People just disrespect this guy, but his role is safe. He does it no matter what. He is what you need if you're competing. This is a guy you go out and get. There's no down weeks. If I'm the Miles Sanders owner, somebody like that, I'm going and calling about Kareem Hunt because I think, especially in Dynasty, this is a guy that you could get. But back to OBJ. Browns put up 42 points. Yeah, Baker's on track, 300 yards. And then it all comes back down to reality. 3 targets for OBJ. 2 catches, 20 yards. Okay, well, maybe it was just that game. No. Oh, man. Versus Minnesota. 2 for 27. So, until further review, till I see OBJ have a blow-up game, he's going to stay on my bench. Especially, you get the Njoku game. You get everybody, the Demetric Felton game. Seems like everybody's having one but OBJ and these receivers. So when you do have a Tony, you have an Emmanuel Sanders, you have different guys like this blowing up, I'm going to set OBJ on the bench till further notice. Thoughts, Brad?
I think it's fair. Now, as a Browns fan, watching the game, the one incompletion that he had last week would have been about a 70-yard touchdown had Baker Mayfield not underthrew it. He had his wide receiver beat by probably 1.5 yards or 2, and had Baker just thrown the ball the way that it should have been thrown, he'd have been fine. And he did that 2 times in the game against Minnesota, which was by far his worst game of the season. He had like under a 50% completion percentage. It was ugly. That was just a very odd game on both sides of the ball, both Minnesota and Cleveland. But two long touchdowns. Odell looks good. Now, when I say good, I don't
injury, right? So I mean, he's still getting his legs back. It's sea legs, baby. You gotta.
But it's odd because when you watch those passes that Baker missed him on, he's open. He's beat the corner. He's beat the coverage. He's got decent separation to where he could get a large number of yak yards. So I'm not ready to just say bench him until further notice because you're going to be pissed in that game where it just Baker finally hits him because he was like 2 for 7. He was like 2 for 7 2 weeks ago, and that could have easily been 4 for 7 for 150 and 2 touchdowns. Right? That's wide receiver 1 on the week. Right? Last week he was one better Baker pass away from being 3 for 3 for 100 yards and a touchdown. Now, is 3 targets what you want? No, it's not. But it's it could be just what it is this year. The way that they're running the ball, no one can stop that run game. Nobody. So I get it. I 100% get it. But do not be surprised or butthurt if he's sitting on your bench and he breaks two long touchdowns, because he's had 3 of them, 3 alone in the last 2 weeks that Baker just didn't hit him on.
Yeah, I don't think it's the talent. I just don't think the offense, you see 3 targets, you see 2 targets, whatever, 7 targets. To me, when I'm seeing, the short game, I'm seeing Hunt get peppered. I'm seeing Landry, when he's healthy, his role's consistent. It might not be those 70-yard touchdowns, but I'm not seeing enough OBJ. I want to see more. I'll take the 70-yard hit, but I don't want Henry Ruggs out there. I want the freak athlete that OBJ is getting peppered, because he's that good. But like you said, the running game's there. You don't have to play that style unless you're playing catch up. And even at that point, when you've got Chubb to move the chains, I mean, shit. Dude, this is a good one. This is one I love. I love your take on sitting Arizona's wide receivers. How big of a hit has Hopkins taken this year from being able to spread the ball around in Arizona like they have?
Yeah, so the caveat there is anybody outside of Hopkins. I actually like Hopkins this week. So if I've got Kirk or Rondale Moore, AJ Green, all those guys they're not even sniffing my starting lineup this week. The Cleveland Browns have been absolutely destroying the wide receiver 2s and wide receiver 3s on teams, right? So if I went and charted all this out, because as I'm watching the game, I'm like, the alpha is the only guy doing anything. Like these other receivers, they just can't get anything done, right? So week 1, they go up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce, 6 for 76. Mecole Hardman, the wide receiver 2, 3 for 19. Okay, Travis Kelce's a tight end. So is that really the wide receiver 2? It's totally different. Week 2, they go up against the Houston Texans, which it is what it is, right? Roberts is 1 for 35. Nico Collins is 1 for 32. Then they go to week 3, and I just didn't even count the Bears game, right? That was a fluke game. It would just make the numbers falsely in Cleveland's favor, right? And I didn't want to do that. So I left that game out. Week 4 against the Minnesota Vikings, Adam Thielen, 3 for 46. KJ Osborne, 3 for 26. Everybody knows KJ Osborne, right? Everybody does, because this dude was lighting the world on fire before that. And then week 5, you see them go up against the Los Angeles Chargers in a game where Justin Herbert throws for 400 yards. And you see Keenan Allen go for 6 for 75 and Jalen Guyton go for 2 for 35. The big game was Mike Williams. The wide receiver 1s, however, they go up against Tyreek Hill, 11 for 197. Brandon Cooks, 9 for 78 and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson, 6 for 84 and a touchdown. Mike Williams, 8 for 165 and 2 touchdowns. They are averaging 9 catches for 131 yards and more than 1 touchdown to the wide receiver 1 on any team. The wide receiver 2s and 3s, they're averaging under 50 yards and under 4 catches a game. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm just not looking for that. Their defense is solid. It looks like Greg Newsome is back. It looks like Greedy Williams is healthy. It looks like Denzel Ward is back. So now they have their entire healthy complement in the secondary, and I'm not going anywhere near any Arizona wide receiver not named DeAndre Hopkins this week.
I mean, it's justified. We've seen Kirk weeks. We've seen more weeks. We haven't seen consistency. And then you play this matchup. That's what we're playing. Don't be stupid.
Yep.
If you know you're going up against a good defense that shuts down pass catchers, don't risk it. Solid, man. I can't hate on that at all. Arizona is just an interesting team because there are so many weapons on that team. So a lot of upside. A lot of people thinking, oh, well, Kirk, Rondale Moore. No. But, yeah,
no,
I can respect
I hope they get their first loss this week. I really do. But
yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, it could have. That's the problem with the fucking Browns. You know they have the potential, the upside.
Yeah.
They're that good, and they just sometimes it just doesn't go in. It's not even like they play bad.
No,
Sometimes.
I mean, you think about the Kansas City Chiefs. They had a 2-touchdown lead on the Chiefs in the third quarter. They had a double-digit lead on the Los Angeles Chargers. That game went up to the last minute. So I'm happy with their performance, but that's a different pod.
I'm a Cowboys fan. You're a Browns fan. There's nothing to be too disgusted with at this point in the season. We're both doing pretty good. What place are the Browns in the division?
They're second. The Baltimore Ravens are 4-1, and then the Bengals and the Browns are at 3-2.
Hey, Andy Jacques. Hey, Garrett, our fantasy affarians that are NFC East fans. Oh, Cowboys. Keep them biscuits, bitch.
I love it.
Let's talk tight end sits. Obviously, this is a watered-down, gross position. You've got like the top 5, then you get lucky. That's pretty much the way this works. I'm hedging my bet to Thursday night. I'm going Zach Ertz. I've seen this guy become a pass catcher in this offense that they count on. Like I said, I think they're going to have to pass against Tampa Bay. They choose to pass in general. They don't, their run game's not there. We saw 6 targets last week, 8 targets the week before, 7 targets. This guy's getting peppered with targets. He's putting up those mid tight end 1, low, high end tight end 2 numbers. 4 for, what was it? Shit, does that say 1 for 7 last week? Jesus Christ. But 6 for 50, 4 for 53. But you take into effect Godaire's not playing. So that's 5 targets, probably a game that are probably going to be moved over to Hurts, especially when you're having to play from behind. This isn't Carolina's defense. This is Tampa Bay's. I think you're going to have to pass it to Hurts and pass it to him often. To me, in a wasteland of tight ends, I'm going Hurts. Would you be starting Hurts this week, Brad?
Yeah, he was written in as my start of the week as well, Zach Ertz. I mean,
Love it.
The last 3 weeks, guys averaged 7 targets. Last week was very odd, right, with his 1 catch for 7 yards. But I think there's a world where you're seeing Zach Ertz of the last, 4 or 5 years where he's getting over 10 targets and has close to 100 yards, if not more, and possibly even a touchdown. So I think this could be a tight end 1 overall type of week for Zach Ertz. The game script is going to be there. Dallas Goedert, assuming he doesn't play. Now, we're making the assumption he's not playing also, right? So
he's not
there
playing.
Is a world if he tests negative tomorrow and he has not, because from what I've read, he has not had symptoms. So if he tests negative tomorrow, there is a world that they allow him to play tomorrow night. So it's going to be interesting, but I don't think it's going to happen. And if it doesn't, I think Zach Ertz, like I said, could potentially be the tight end 1 overall in week 6.
I think also, I love that take. And I also think if Dallas Goedert plays, I think Zach Ertz overtaken him in the passing game work. I think he's that much better. And if you're streaming a tight end, because let's be realistic, you're not streaming him over the top 5, 6 guys.
Right.
You've got Knox you've added to that list. You'd be a dumbass if you sit this guy. Hawk, Kittle, you name it, Waller. Things like that you're not going to sit. But when it comes to guys like Conklin, when it comes to guys like Njoku, you've got to think about it. So tight end sucks. That's just the generalized topic. Let's talk. So you said yours was Ertz too. We're both on this guy as a start. Let's talk sits, Brad. Because do you have your sit ready for me? Or you want me to
yeah.
Let's hear it, baby.
No, I'm good. So don't chase the waiver wire darling of the week, and that is David Njoku, guy who went 100% catch rate, 7 for 7 for 149 and a touchdown last week. He was the tight end, I believe, 2 on the week, 1 or 2 on the week. That's not consistent. It's not. They have 3 tight ends that they run between Harrison Bryant and Austin Hooper and David Njoku. I just don't see that being a situation that is consistent. So if you plug him in, don't be surprised if you end up with a game like you saw in week 2, 3, or 4, where you got 3 points in week 2, a goose egg in week 3, and 3 points in week 4. And this is a guy who's playing 60+% of snaps. I'm not chasing that. That is an off game. He was wide open on that touchdown run, so I'm staying away from David Njoku. Do not chase that waiver wire darling and throw him in expecting to get 20 points from him.
Man, Njoku, what could have been? OJ Howard,
Still could be.
Irv Smith, all these guys we want to just do great, and it's tight ends are just tricky bitch. Like sometimes we're like, oh, this guy's got. I picked up Donald Parham today after going back-to-back weeks with 10 points. I was like, it's San Diego's offense, or excuse me, Los Angeles. I was like, it's worth a shot. Jared Cook, whatever. Yeah, I can dig that. I don't know about Njoku. Like you said, they have those other tight ends. Hooper, where the fuck has he been? What's up with that, man?
He's getting most of the targets he's getting most of the targets at the tight end position. It's just last week was an odd week. I still think he had 5 or 6 targets last week also.
Who is the other tight end you guys have?
Harrison Bryant.
Harrison Bryant. Everybody loved that guy coming out. So tight ends. Ugh. I'm going to go Conklin, Minnesota. I don't know if it's just Minnesota in general. They just don't like to use their tight end. But the last 4 weeks haven't been pretty. 3 targets last week, 6 the week before, 8 the week before that. It just hasn't been pretty. It's been 3 for 20, 4 for 6, 5 for 5. Just not what you're looking for from your tight end position. I had kind of high hopes for this guy, but tight end 16 on the year. To me, I'm not starting him against Carolina. We've seen how good this defense is. I'm going to pass on that ass. So, no Conklin. Not this week, ladies and gentlemen. Are you a Conklin truth or bourbon dude?
Not even close. Not even close. Yeah.
What about Irv Smith? He's not playing. That's an off-season pod, but
I do. I would still want to get him in dynasty leagues if I could. I've got him in a couple that people have come to try to get him, and I'm just unwilling to move him right now because he's not worth anything right now. Right now, everybody wants him for a third or something stupid cheap, and it's like, why would I? He's sitting on my IR. In some leagues, he can sit on my taxi squad. Like, why would I do that right now? Like, do not. And we've preached it. We talked about this last week on the pod. Do not sell low. You don't sell at your player's floor. That's how you end up with a hitman level team. Like you're just not going to be good. I hope he listens.
I'm going to timestamp that right now at 107, so I can see Tim Hitman Avery, the best shit talker I've ever had in any fantasy league.
Oh,
big shout out to that. But you do bring up a level. I definitely, man. Irv Smith, one of those intriguing players. Let's talk Thursday night football. Dun, 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 dun. We've got the Eagles. We've got the Bucs. We got a 53-point total, and we've got a bunch of studs here. It's not a lot to talk about, but we're going to kind of rattle through these. You've got Brady, QB1 on the year. Hey, he might be the MVP this year. This might work out for me. So far, so good. But we just saw him, torch Miami. 411 yards, 5 touchdowns. This guy is just on fire, cooking with Crisco. And then we've got Ertz, QB7. Some weeks it doesn't feel like he's playing like a QB1, but he's done it. He had 198 yards and a pick. Didn't feel so good. Saved his day with 30 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns last week against Carolina. Only 21 points. I think we all expect a big game from Brady. Let's talk Hurts for a second because he is QB7. He is going up against Tampa Bay. You have Devonte Smith as your receiver start. Walk us through Hurts. Is this a guy you see finishing, top 5, top 7 this week? Or could you see Tampa Bay giving him some trouble?
I think they are going to give him trouble, but I think their pass defense is so bad. It's like bottom 5 in the league. I think he ends up with a pretty solid passing performance. And he's still going to be able to rush a little bit, right? And it's not like he's lighting the world on fire rushing the ball anyway. The last 3 weeks, he's had 35 yards, 47 yards, and 30 yards, right? But he's sprinkling in some touchdowns there. So that rushing touchdown upside is always there. I think you see an over 300-yard passing game because they're going to have to keep up with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's rush defense is good. Miles Sanders is not looking good. Kenny Gainwell's getting a lot of that pass catching work. So, I just think – that Jalen Hurts, if they're going to have any chance in this game, it's going to be a Jalen Hurts game. So I think with him being able to throw over 300 yards on that piss poor pass defense that Tampa has, coupled with his rushing upside, I think it's very much within the possibility that you're looking at him in the top 5 quarterbacks again this week.
I could dig it. I think both these guys are safe. If you've got them, you're starting them. Not much to go there. I think Brady does what Brady does. He just manhandles this defense in Philly. Philly's a tricky team because they're like, I don't know what I have with them. Like they have times they look good and then times they just look really bad. Same with Hurts. Sometimes he plays well and then sometimes is Hurts a good quarterback or is he a good fantasy quarterback?
He's a good fantasy quarterback. I don't like what I'm seeing from him. I'm just a guy watching football. I don't have him anywhere. I have no interest. I didn't have any interest in obtaining him earlier before the season started or even after he put a couple games together this year. It's just not something I think is sustainable. He's not Nick Sirianni's guy either. So I think there's more of a likelihood that they move on from him than it is that they keep him. So I'm a little worried from an NFL perspective and a dynasty football team perspective. But if he's on my team right now, he's absolutely getting plugged in, and I'm shooting for that upside with him right now.
All right, we got a couple questions coming in. These look like redraft questions. Brad, somebody sent me Najee Harris and Jamar Chase. Both have been on fire lately. For Mixon, who's coming off an injury, kind of playing hurt, and Mike Williams, who we saw have a down week, but he's also Mike Williams, who's been peppered with targets and shown he's an alpha receiver. What are you doing here, Brad?
Oh, God, this hurts me. So to provide a little bit of context, two of these guys are my bold predictions of the year, right? Joe Mixon, I said, my bold prediction was that he was going to lead running backs in touches by the end of the season. And then my bold prediction for Mike Williams was that he was going to be a top 12 wide receiver, greater than 1,200 yards and double-digit touchdowns, which looks like that's going to come to fruition, knock on wood for him. But you can't deny what Jamar Chase has done up to this point. And I would probably prefer Najee over Mixon right now, especially with the loss of and that was with Juju. Now you have the loss of Juju, so those targets are going to stay there now for him. They're not going to go away. Now, do I think he sees 19 targets ever again? Absolutely not. But I do think that he's going to have this nice solid floor now that you're going to see for him. So as much as it pains me to say, I don't think you can trust Joe Mixon in his health right now. Najee Harris by Joe Mixon over Joe Mixon by a mile. So I've got to go with Najee Harris and Jamar Chase as I throw up in my mouth over it.
Who is selling Jamar Chase coming off like a monster game and Najee Harris coming off of like a 122 rush yard game? This is like your RB4.
Somebody who wants Mike Williams.
Yeah, RB4 on the year, wide receiver 8 on the year for rookies. We've seen these QBs shit the bed, but these guys have been solid. Yeah, I'm smashing this truly, Seb. Take it.
Yeah. The one thing, and I don't, especially right now, you're basically 6 weeks into the season. You need to start looking at the schedules. I don't know what Pittsburgh's schedule looks like, what Cincinnati's schedule looks like, and the LA Chargers looks like off the top of my head right now. So that could potentially sway this a little bit if you're looking at a really tough lineup or a defensive matchup for Najee Harris at the back end of the season, but a really soft matchup for Joe Mixon and vice versa. So look at that. But barring anything that is like just groundbreaking and very clear that, they're lining up against the Buffalo Bills and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and this, then Najee Harris is going to be a smash. But do go and look at that, especially if you think you're going to be a contender.
All right, we got another one for you from Thomas. Thank you for the question. Truly, Seb, if you don't mind, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It would be greatly appreciated. If not, go check out our website, www.ffaffair.com. Fantasy football's best kept secret. Thomas, is Damian Williams and Sutton enough to trade A.J. Brown? A.J. Brown's coming off of a bad game, 3 catches, under 100 yards. I think it was like 30-something. And then you have Sutton putting up over 100. Damian Williams kind of in a timeshare, but could work himself out to have that, RB1, RB2 weeks every week. So what are you doing here? Let's just say this is obviously dynasty. You're probably not making this move. But redraft, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I'm keeping A.J. Brown. Look, Damian Williams we've mentioned this a little bit earlier, like with the Daryl Williams, right? He's a rental, right? David Montgomery's going to be back at some point in time, within the next 3 or 4 weeks, and he's going to be the bell cow. You saw him be the bell cow before. Damian Williams was not really getting any work at that point. In Cortland Sutton, you're going to see some up and down games. I do like him with Teddy Bridgewater. I think that's where you see a lot of his upside coming from. So I do love Cortland Sutton, but I can't move A.J. Brown for these two. It's just not enough for me.
Yeah, A.J. Brown's tricky in redraft because people just keep waiting. Waiting. What if Tennessee's offense just never – it takes all year for them to click, and by then you're out of the playoffs. You need 2 starters. You're looking at Damian Williams, 4-wing rental, and Sutton, who you can kind of flex as a wide receiver too here.
Yeah, I love how you bring that up because that does add some context, right? So let's say you're a 2-3 team and you need to win the next couple weeks because of where you're positioned and whatnot. I may take the Damian Williams and Cortland Sutton at that point because I basically need to buy myself a couple wins right now. And while I know Damian Williams is not going to help me in the playoffs, it at least gets me in the playoffs or at least in the running for the playoffs. So if you're a 4-1 team or a 5-0 team, which I'd be surprised if you have Damian Williams and Cortland Sutton on your team that's where you're at, but it's possible. Then I'd be looking to move for AJ Brown at that point. So your record does, I think, probably play into this a little bit.
Thomas has some more. I mentioned I'm trying to trade for is 0-5. So the guy's desperate at this point. He's let's say Thomas is 4-1, 3-2. So he's had some good luck here. He's just ready for the A.J. Brown bounce back. The guy is 0-5 and it's got Damian Williams and Sutton now.
Yeah. If he's if you're 4-1, I'm probably holding A.J. Brown.
Yeah, you hold A.J. Brown. You've got time to wait
or get A.J. Brown if that's how the trade is working.
There's always an RB you can flex.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen you can play matchups, things like that. So, Thomas, you're in a good spot, 4-1. Ooh, subscribe. I got to push that, man. We're getting way too many views and not enough subscriptions. I don't even know what subscriptions do, but we went quarterbacks. Let's talk RBs, man. We've seen kind of Fournette overtake the role, RB 17 on the year. This guy's getting fed, and when we heard Bruce Arians saying they're less predictable when they have Fournette in the game because he can do everything and he's doing it well, passing and receiving work. We've seen 16 points against New England, 21 against Miami. Has Fournette taken over the backfield or is this a trap?
No, he did. Ronald Jones fucked himself in week 1 when he fumbled the damn ball. Bruce Arians did not tolerate that, and you saw him drop from like 40% to the teens. He doesn't touch the field. Leonard Fournette is on there, and then Gio, when healthy, is on there in like known pass-catching downs, right? And those 2-minute drill drives or whatever, right? That's when you see Gio on the field. Ronald Jones is not getting work, which I think is a shame because I do think he's the most explosive back out of the bunch, but I don't think you can deny right now how they're leaning on Leonard Fournette the last couple weeks, and I do think that's going to be more of the same in the near future.
I think this could be a good Fournette game as well. I could see Hurts doing his usual make turnovers, great matchup, but I could see him kind of them get behind, and Fournette just gets fed, kind of what you saw in past matchups. So this is another one. Fournette, you're starting, I feel like, confidently.
Yeah.
RB2 floor, wouldn't you say?
I think he's top 24. That's what I was going to say. I think I don't think there's any way he's below RB 24, but I also don't know that I see him above like RB 15. Right. I just don't know that it's going to happen.
So here's one that made me kind of chuckle just because we've kind of heard, at this point of the year, you're dumb if you're starting Gaskin, excuse me. That'll be the point I'm bringing up. But Miles Sanders, it's just been a shit show. RB 30 on the season, Miles Sanders. RB 31, Kenneth Gainwell. What is going on here? We just saw Miami's Gaskin have his way from playing catch up. They were targeting, 10 catches, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. Do you think either one of these RBs is a play against Tampa Bay? Because you are starting Devonte Smith. Do either one of these RBs get enough? And if you are starting one, are you starting Miles Sanders over Gainwell or vice versa?
No, yeah. If I'm going to start one, it's probably Gainwell, and that's because of the pass catching work. I just think that there's too much unknown with what you're seeing from Miles Sanders right now and his usage. There's games where he's getting some target. Last week he saw 5 targets. The week before that, he only saw 3, and that's not really enough to get it. And when you get 3, you can't have 7 carries. That's just not enough work. So I think if I'm looking at starting either one of these, it's going to be Gainwell. But if I can avoid starting either one of them, I am. Tampa Bay's rush defense is bad to the bone. I mean, those guys are nasty. So there's no way I'm wanting either one of these guys in my lineup. But if I have no choice and I happen to have both of them, I'm going with Kenneth Gainwell. But Miles Sanders, when you watch, he doesn't look bad. That's what I'm not understanding right now is, the guy's averaging 4.5 yards a carry. He looks good with the ball in his hand. They're just not using him. They're just not running the ball. I mean, he's got 15 carries in week 1, 13 in week 2, then 2 carries, then 7 carries, then 11 carries. That's just not enough volume. And I'm not really sure what's going on there because to me, it's not a talent issue. It's just, however, they're just not utilizing him the way that I thought maybe they would. So I'm not starting either one of these guys against Tampa Bay this week, though.
And it's weird to see like Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, their value. How does this change next year? Is Hurts even a starter? Does Sanders have like that alpha role again? We've seen the coach kind of play multiple backs, so we really don't know what to expect with Philly. And are they playing from behind? Can they run the ball at all? Obviously, what is going to happen? It's Thursday's a lot of intrigue of what this could get ugly quick, or they could put up a fight with, like you said, Tampa Bay's pass defense not being good.
Yeah, I mean, in Dynasty, I moved Miles Sanders today, and essentially for the equivalent of Elijah Mitchell in a third.
Oh,
that's how low I am on Miles Sanders right now. I was very high on Elijah Mitchell coming out of the draft before he even got drafted by the 49ers. So I already kind of had that in the back of my head. Like I like this guy a lot. But I am so low on Miles Sanders that I wanted to get any value that I could out of him, because after this week, which I should expect him to have a bad game, his value is going to absolutely plummet even more than it already has, where he would be virtually untradeable for any kind of value at that point. So,
well, I mean, if you can't start a guy, what can you do? You're just a bench clogger at this point. It doesn't matter how talented you are if your coach isn't going to play you. Receivers, we said Devante, wide receiver 34 on the season, but huge games the last 2 weeks. Finding his mojo, and he's got this smash spot. We've seen Quez Watkins kind of play a minimal role. We've seen Rager disappear. Anybody else Philly wide receiver-wise you're even considering here?
No, yeah. For me, the pass catchers, it's either Devonta Smith and Zach Ertz or nothing.
Right.
I'm not really reaching for Rager. I mean, there is a chance that he gets a deep ball because of how bad the secondary is for the Buccaneers, but I don't know that unless I'm thinking I'm going to lose by a large margin and I need those big play points, then where I would want to play a guy like Sterling Shepard, who's going to give me a solid floor, I may throw Jalen Rager in there instead of him or something like that. But I'm not looking to find a reason to get Rager in my lineup at all.
All right, here we go. This triple stack in Tampa Bay. Golly, dude. No wonder Brady's number one. When you got AB as your wide receiver 3 on your team, you've got Mike Evans, wide receiver 12 on the year, Godwin, wide receiver 15, and AB, wide receiver 25, even with missing a game. You got to fire up all your Tampa Bay receivers, right? No Gronk?
I think you have to. It's so hard, though, because one of them is going to kind of be the odd man out each game. And there's no way that, or at least I haven't found. If you know a way, message me on Twitter at FFbourbondude and let me know, because I'd love to. Because I've got a couple leagues where I've got at least one of these pass catchers in multiple leagues, and if I knew which one I could trust every week, that would be very helpful. But yeah, if you've got them, you can't take them out of your lineup right now. It's just he's he's looking good. He's looking good.
I think Eagles play their safeties deep too, so it should be interesting there for the deep players like that. You're smashing, starting all these guys. Brait, I know a lot of people had some interest in, like we always do every year. Nothing really done so far with Brady. Not been Gronk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just hasn't built that trust, or it's not Rob Gronkowski.
Yep.
Man, I think that's it. We got a
couple questions coming in.
Yeah, late night delight. Choose to stash into the season. Tony, Jacoby Myers, Elijah Mitchell, or Javonte Williams. Thank you guys, new to the channel. Elver, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. Love the Michael Scott profile pic. So we're choosing two to kind of stash. Two guys.
Yeah,
I'll
start now. Yeah, this is easy for me. Even if it's a keeper, right? I'm going Javonte Williams and Elijah Mitchell over Tony and Myers all day, every day. This is zero question for me.
Javonte Williams, absolutely for me. I like Jacoby Myers too. I just don't like Mac Jones a lot. Elijah Mitchell looks so damn good when he plays. You saw the work share he had last week after being injured. I'm higher on Tony, though. I want him to prove everybody wrong. Maybe it's the 180 yards last week, and that's kind of changed my lingo, but I'm starting to have a little more faith in these Giants. Definitely Javonte Williams, Elijah Mitchell. You can't go wrong with him or Tony, I don't think. Moving forward, thank you for the channel, Elver. Please tune in. We're obviously always putting out weekly content. Appreciate you watching. Trade Godwin, Debo, and Harris.
Damian Harris.
Yeah. For Tyreek and Javonte. I think you got to do this one, huh? That's tough because Debo is what, wide receiver 6 on the year.
I don't know if
wide receiver 15. Who's your RBs? That's the real question. Who's your receivers? A lot more.
Yeah, I think in a vacuum, I still think I'm keeping Godwin, Debo, and Damian Harris. Yeah. Dynasty in a vacuum, I think I'm going those three. I mean,
whew, that's tough.
Yeah, that's
tough.
Yeah, I'm going with Godwin, Debo, and Damian Harris. Oh man, I'm gonna get some flack from the guys about that.
I think I'd have to go Tyreek Hill and Javonte Williams. I mean, to me, I'm looking at it. Debo, I love what I'm seeing. Godwin, I mean, they're both very consistent when they're playing, but being attached to Patrick Mahomes, if he does go deep, which he tries to do, regardless of how they're scheming up the defense, he still takes shots. So I'm going Hill, and like you, I love Javonte Williams. I think he was better than Etienne coming out. So I'm all in on that part of the trade. We're split down the middle. I don't think there's a wrong.
There isn't. There really isn't. You're gonna be so excited being able to play Tyreek Hill every week.
Whoa.
But you're gonna like being able to play Godwin and Debo every week. I don't think you can go wrong here. But oh man, that's a good trade. I feel like that's a solid lateral trade.
Maybe try to keep Debo out of these. If you could trade Godwin and maybe another wide receiver too, keep Debo. That's what I would do. I'd still go after Hill and Javonte, but I'd maybe hold on to Debo because you can tell he's the alpha when he's healthy.
I love what he's thinking though, going and getting Javonte Williams before Melvin Gordon misses this week, and then Javonte Williams' drafts or stock just rises astronomically.
There must not be a lot of late night YouTube fantasy football shows because it seems like every week this happens.
Yeah, well, and I know we're getting a bunch of stuff on Twitter too. Britt texts me at the FF Sandman does Rookie on the Rise for us. Check it out at fffair.com under the sport. Oh, damn it. What do we call it? The Fantasy Affair Radio Network link. You'll see it under that. He said he was been messaging us on Twitter. So
didn't get
we're
any
probably
of it.
Getting quite a bit of stuff on Twitter, and it looks like it's still not working properly.
Well, Brad, dude, because you do so many different, you're kind of the jack of all trades. You've stepped it up. I love that mic. Is that a Yeti mic?
It is, yeah.
Sounds very crisp, very good. Yeah, this is easy, James. Go Javonte.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it.
Yep.
Get Damian Harris off your team. You do not need this guy. Yeah, man. James, thank you for tuning in. Go ahead and make sure you subscribe.
Yeah, say it again. You might as well, right?
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to build the YouTube. I do a lot of video content. I'm the MattyDaddy. Check out our trade pieces, our quick hitters. We do starts and sits every Sunday morning, things like that. But we have a lot more to offer. Thank you, James. We have podcasts. We have a website. We have all these different things where we talk dynasty year-round. Brad, fill us in about your podcast, Fantasy Affair.
Yeah, hey, look, every Thursday we record. We drop it on Fridays. The Fantasy Affair Fantasy Football Podcast is dynasty related, right? So we try to be very specific and targeted with what we talk about, right? So, a couple weeks ago after week 4, we talked about those guys that you should go get and those guys that you could sell based on stock. Right. So, week 4 is kind of the first time that you look at your team and kind of evaluate it. So we talked about how to evaluate your team to see if you're a buyer or you should be a buyer or a seller, and then what guys to target. We also talked about guys on injured reserve that people may be forgetting about, like the Rashad Batemans of the world and J.K. Dobbins and Cam Akers, and whether or not we thought they were buys or sells and why or why not. So we try to be very targeted. We go all through the offseason as well. We try to do 2 shows a week in the offseason to really help you talk about dynasty strategy. Look, if you don't know Eric at Eric Burkholder 6, this dude is an absolute monster when it comes to dynasty strategy. So if you ever have questions about something, he's the go-to guy for us, right? All of us have kind of our niche, but Eric is our dynasty strategy guy. He's absolutely phenomenal at it. So take a look at him. And then we get into talking about rookies as well on certain periodicities. So that's when you get into the at the FF Sandman, Britt Sanders, and Rookie on the Rise. We talk about it on our podcast on Fridays as well. And look, our hostess with the mostest, right? Brian GM FF Affair comes in and he drives the ship. Right, which is kind of the right thing, right? The guy lives in Hawaii. He's on the ocean all day long for work, so it only makes sense for him to drive the ship. But yeah, so we try to cover anything and everything that you need from a dynasty perspective on that pod.
A lot of good action, guys. Rookie on the Rise, Fantasy Affair Podcast, www.ffaffair.com. We got a lot of good stuff. Before we get out of here, one more. Oh, Brad, they just can't have enough. Yeah. This one sounds like you're just a stacked team. Which one player do I sit? McCaffrey's, is he playing this week? And I've just heard something crazy here.
Yeah, if he plays, you bench Mixon out of these, and that's my opinion.
Henderson, yeah, you got to start Henderson just with the way that offense looks. Yeah, I'm the same with you. You got to bench Mixon. Nothing against Mixon the player. It's more the team and how hard it is. He gets the workload. It's just hard to run, it seems like, in Cincinnati behind that O-line.
Yep.
All right. Brad, I'm the MattyDaddy.
Hey, one more shout out, right? So we talked about most of our pods. We missed one, Hot Buy Happy Hour.
Whoa!
Right? So every Tuesday you get Hot Buy Happy Hour. It drops. It does a quick weekly review of the games, but then it looks at waiver wire pickups and things of that nature. So you got to check that out also, right? They got a good little redraft twist on the stuff. And then you get some fun in there too with what beers they're drinking. We got a promo code for best cigar prices. So tune into that show. I'm not going to spoil the fun on that one. Right. Go in and listen to Hot Buy Happy Hour. Again, go to fffair.com, Fantasy Affair Radio Network. You'll see it on there and you'll get the promo code on there. But that's a great show that you guys need to check out as well.
Absolutely, guys. Joe, James, Elver, Thomas, Truly Seb, NJ Keno, the guy we blocked. Forgive Jonah. Thank you all for the questions, guys. Make sure you check out our content. We're here every Wednesday night, here every Sunday morning, helping you out with your start sits. Take advantage of this. Check out our YouTube channel, our website, and our podcast. We're here for you. Brad, let's get the fuck out of here.
Later.
Woo! Woo, woo. All right.